So tell us, do you have a question? Okay. Tell us what it was like when you first started NASA. What was your first, tell me about your first year.
Well, like I said, when I went back, I got hired on the spot by this company called Wiley Laboratories, and I then ended up being a systems programmer at one of the wind tunnels. At that wind tunnel, I was approached that someone was retiring, and they asked me if I would be interested in working for NASA. They wanted to, bring me on at NASA, and I said sure. And actually, unfortunately, that didn't work out. Okay. They were trying to get somebody's son who was graduating that position, so it was really funny. But so that kind of fell through. But I think maybe a couple of months later, I was approached again. Actually, they were saying we were looking for a mathematician to work at one of the wind tunnels. Are you interested? And so I said sure. So I went. And I had my resume together, even though I was working there. And this is another thing, if you're working a job and there's another position in that company, don't just go in there, without any paper. Still put your resume together like you're starting afresh. And so I had my resume together, and they hired me on the spot, and there was 2 other candidates. So I think it was really God's will for me to be at NASA, because I never did even apply, and people have been trying for years, to work there. So I guess it was just fate or the will of God for me to to be there.
One of the things that I pick up from what you just shared with us is something that the young people need to also be aware of is, as you said, be prepared, but also be persistent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you didn't lose your drive just because of that first opportunity you went to whatever.
Right.
You were still willing. So I guess the motivation part of it, you know what I mean? And I think the students are lucky to have people like yourself in a position to support them, encourage them, and give them this great experience.
Did you have a question, Doc?
Yeah, I was just thinking, looking at your bio, that I noticed one of the things that it seems to me you were constantly being promoted, and I noticed you went from one area to another and another and another, and I was quite impressed with that. And I think that probably has a lot to do with personality, your attitude, your willingness to want to become respected on the job. And I was just actually thinking about that when I went over your bio this morning, that knowing you like I do, I'm just so impressed with the way you carry yourself. I mean, it's just the professionalism. I think I want the young people to understand it's not the fact that you're just strong academically. You have to be able to sell yourself in a professional way to people who at that time were your bosses. And I think the word obviously got around in NASA that you were somebody that they're looking for. So I think that's something I'm trying to strive for young people. Your attitude is so important, that you always are striving to be friendly and respected, and you try to treat people in a respectful way, and you've always been that way, even at Bancroft. So I just wanted to get that point out.
Thanks.
One of the things, go ahead.
I was going to say, it wasn't easy. Those opportunities didn't come easy because sometimes you might have heard the term the glass ceiling.
Absolutely.
Can you explain that? Okay.
The glass ceiling is basically when a company tries to hold you just to a certain, you can grow but to a certain point, and then you stop. And no matter how hard you try, what your credentials are, it's like, it just seemed like people are just not allowing you to get those opportunities. I mean, I applied for other positions and didn't even hear whether I got the position or not, and sometimes we tend to just say, oh, whatever, but later that started really bothering me, and I said, I'm going to check into it. I'm going to, even though I know I didn't get the position, but why didn't I get the position, and just to find out what do I need to do the next time. But a lot of times it was because they had someone else in mind. But that didn't stop me from trying to apply for the next position. And also too, I didn't stay idle when I wasn't really progressing. NASA has a lot of training, and a lot of companies have a lot of training opportunities, and I decided to go into this program, this project management program, and there's some awesome courses like systems engineering and project management, international project management. I mean, it's just a whole series of those courses you can take. And the one thing that I did was I was able to network, and I even remember I applied to be able to do, we call it a detail, and that's when you get to work at another center on a project. And it doesn't have to be another center, it could be in a whole different organization, maybe for 6 months or a year. And I applied for, the formal project management detail program, and I didn't get it, didn't hear anything. But then I had an opportunity through the project management from the courses I was taking, and that fell through as well. But I just have to say, because I'm a strong believer in God, you have to also believe in yourself as well. But God opened up a door, and I was able to do a detail within Langley, where I was, NASA Langley, and that really, I think that's where I really needed to be, like in the program management. That's when doors really started opening. But I had to transfer to another NASA center when I just took off.
Right.
So I actually worked at NASA Langley Research Center, which is in Hampton, Virginia. NASA has 10 centers. It's not just one NASA.
Right.
And so I worked at NASA Langley in Hampton, Virginia for 16 years, and then I transferred to NASA Goddard, which is in Greenbelt, Maryland, in the Washington, D.C. area.
Right.
And so at NASA Langley, I worked more with aeronautics, like the study of aircraft. But when I went to NASA Goddard, I had to change fields, and I worked with aerospace. So now I'm working with spacecraft, not the space shuttle. That's what we call a manned spacecraft. I work with the unmanned spacecraft, which are like satellites that some can predict adverse weather condition or whatever the science that we're trying to retrieve from that satellite. So
didn't I read though that you were working on the nose gear, the landing nose gear of the shuttle?
Yeah, well that's true. I did. Even at NASA Langley, we did do some work with shuttle, and I actually worked at, it's called the Aircraft Landing Dynamics branch, and I worked with, that facility was anything associated with an aircraft landing or even a shuttle landing. We could mimic shuttle landing, which is about 220 miles an hour, so that's, normally our typical speed on the highway is 55, so you can imagine how fast that runway was. And we did a lot of study with landing gear, basically. And like if you're on the plane, I always like to ask the kids, have anybody been on an airplane, and they tell you, let's prepare for landing, and you put your seat back up, and then you make sure your seat belt's on, and next thing you know, you hear a boom. That's the landing gear, and that's what we worked on. So we worked on a lot of shuttle tires. I did an experiment with the shuttle nose gear tire to try to understand the tire properties, so that we can know when it's best to replace the tires so that they won't blow out. But for safety purposes or insurance purposes, we actually use brand new tires every time.
The one, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it was sort of like in the NBA, they wear a new pair of sneakers.
Yeah, we can use a new pair of sneakers, we can use a new wheel. But I think for our students, what I'd like you to talk about now is, for us, and I don't mean to, I'm not trying to tell you guys that you don't get it, but I want to explain fully why the space shuttle was so significant to us. Because before the space shuttle, what happened to an aircraft that went up into space?